Alexandria Archive Institute / Open Context video, I'll explain how to find reliable and useful maps online. This will include some discussion about why you would want to do this, what it means to be reliable and usable, as well as some places to find maps that fit that bill. Why would you want to find a reliable and usable map online? The main reason is that you'd like to locate something in space and be sure that the where of that thing is accurate, one kind of reliability, and be able to interact with it in a digital environment in some capacity. You'll also want it to be reliable in the sense that you can read it to make sure you understand what it's communicating, accurate for your purposes, accessible in the ways that you need it to be, and produced by an authority that you trust. This helps ensure that the map is an accurate data structure rather than something that looks nice but doesn't convey what you need it to. The issue of usable depends a lot on what you want to use the map for. Usable can mean intelligible or legible in that you can read the map well enough to assess whether it fits your purposes, similar to its reliability. Another kind of usability, though, is the issue of legal reusability or usability, aka the copyright to the map. And this depends a lot on what you want to use the map for. For the purposes of this video, we're going to assume that your goal is to locate a hand-drawn map that you made on a larger one so you can put your hand-drawn map in a greater spatial context. When searching for a reliable online map that you'll use to redraw or reference a hand-drawn one, you should look at maps made by groups that prioritize spatial accuracy, such as government survey services, ones that you can access as needed, meaning that they won't suddenly disappear, and those with a large enough extent or at an appropriate scale that you can get a sense for the area outside your map's direct location. The usability of online maps, on the other hand, is a great introduction to data literacy. Maps are actually a kind of data structure where, rather than using things like columns and rows, your structured observations, which is one definition of data, are organized based on their spatial relationships. AKA, maps use the standard format of location to structure and display observations about the real world. This means that part of the reusability of any map is being able to read it, work with it, and analyze it to understand that map's purposes and whether that purpose aligns with yours. For locating a hand-drawn map in space, usability usually requires the map to be in a language that you understand, that it has enough spatial structures so that you can recognize where your hand-drawn map will go, that it has a findable license so you can understand who owns the map as a creation and how you can or cannot reuse it, and then that you can get your own copy. Maintaining a local copy is an important part of the reusability and reliability of any map that you find online. Even when working with reliable sources that you can use without downloading, I highly recommend that people keep some kind of local copy, because online sources can have outages and websites do sometimes close down. So to be safe, download or print copies. And if you're working with materials from a specific site, try to save that URL using the Wayback Machine, a service of the Internet Archive. That way, at least one copy exists for later citation or referencing. Okay, so once you have a map that's reliable and usable, you'll want to record some things about it before moving forward. These include things like its title, so that you can find it again in the future, who made the map, aka its author, the source of that map, including the URL, Wayback Machine link, DOI, and or the institution that you got the map from, and its license. This might be a Creative Commons or a CC license, a copyright mark, a GNU license, or something else. This license explains how and in what way you might be able to use, reuse, or remix that map. Some other information that you'll want to take note of are things like the map's scale, extent, and the year it was made. All of these are part of documenting the map, and this information is sometimes collectively referred to as a map's metadata. Recording these features, aka its metadata, when you first get the map, means that you won't need to play detective in 5 years when you want to reuse this material. That's because you'll already know where the map came from and who to cite. This helps ensure that your adaptation of the map with its hand-drawn edition is itself reliable and usable. With these features in mind, let's consider some online sources for reliable and usable maps. My experience looking for maps comes from an interest in examining historical ones to get an idea of what places looked like in the past. This search led me to some really cool sources, such as the United States Library of Congress, which has a wide variety of online accessible and downloadable maps that include extensive metadata outlining their use. Another option for older maps, but in the United Kingdom, is the British Museum, which also has a lot of metadata explaining the reuse of their collections and has records that go back farther in time. However, maps from these two collections aren't always georeferenced. When a map is georeferenced, that means that someone else has taken the time to add spatial coordinates to the digital version of that whole map. In contrast, the National Library of Scotland and the US Earth Explorer already have collections that are georeferenced. Some other great collections include the US Geological Survey's online collection, which includes topographic maps of the United States, the UK's Ordnance Survey and the British Geological Survey, and in India, there's the Survey of India, which includes many different kinds of maps, not just topographic ones. These are only a few of many sources for maps online that you can either download or take a screen capture of if you'd like to reuse them in your own work. You may have noticed, though, that I highlighted predominantly government sources over things like Google Maps or other regional equivalents. I did this because companies like Google do tend to copyright their maps and images. This contrasts government data and maps, which in the United States at least, are often considered government record and as such are in the public domain. That means that you don't have to ask permission to reuse them. However, copyrighted maps can fit other aspects of reliability and usability depending on what your end goal is. With this introduction to what the qualities of reliability and usability are for maps that you find online, I encourage you to explore our suggested sources or find ones that relate to your work. If you want to learn more about data citation, get an introduction to geographic information systems, or learn more about attribution and licensing, check out our other videos or the links to our sourcing series in the video description.